Well, isn't this new?
Department head.
No. It's a,
Click. No.
it's
Click
off to the side.
is either on the keyboard or on the mouse. Okay. Either. You hear what I just said? Either click from the keyboard or
All
the
right.
mouse.
So is it this one or this one?
Keyboard or the
Hey,
mouse.
hey. Is it this? I always get. Is it this one or this
Arrow
one?
right.
This
Arrow
one?
right. Okay. You don't ever want to go down. You just want to scroll. Keep scrolling.
Oh, so it's this one.
Arrow right.
Well, that,
See?
okay. Okay.
Everybody see?
All right.
Okay. Don't ever want to go back. Keep going down. I'll be right here. Okay. minus 5.5 years old. Yeah, well, I rounded. Has to be his laptop. It doesn't have my PMI out. I better like. I know, I harass him all the time. Killing me.
Good evening. Welcome to the May 22nd, 2018 Council Committee meeting. My name's Mickey Sandifer. I'm a council member for Ward 4, and I am the chair of this meeting tonight. Councilmember Zimmerman and Councilmember Myers are absent. Beside myself at the committee, and Kimling, sorry. And besides myself, the committee members here tonight are Jim Neighbors, Ward 1, Eric Jenkins, Ward 2, Justin Adrian, Ward 3, and Lindsey Constance, Ward 4. Before we begin our agenda, I'd like to explain the procedures for the public input. During the meeting, I will offer the opportunity for public input. If you would like to speak to the committee at any of those times, please go to the podium. I will ask that you state your name and address for the records. Then you may offer your comments. So that members of the audience can hear your comments, I would ask that you speak directly into the microphone. By policy, comments are limited to 5 minutes. After you are finished, please sign the form at the podium to ensure that we have accurate records for your name and address. There's only one item on the agenda tonight. The first item is the 2017 R and 2018 budget. Budget by function forecast highlights 2017 R and 2018 work plan and performance dashboard. The budget discussion will provide an overview of the 2018 R and the 2019 budget by function forecast and highlights. 2017 R and 2018 work plans and performance dashboards. Finance Director Maureen Rogers will provide budget forecast highlights along with a summary of the functional budget. The department directors then will present their functional and department budgets. First, Strategic Initiatives Manager Caitlin Gard will provide an introduction. This is for informational purposes only.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So this is my very favorite budget meeting of the year. The best part about it is you get to hear from all of our wonderful department directors, all the great things that they completed in 2017, all the great things they're going to complete in 2018, and then upcoming in 2019. Each one of them will get up and they'll give a brief presentation to you, and you'll be able to ask questions anytime throughout the presentation. Additionally, this evening, we have new this year, we've created what's called a budget video. So kind of just a summary of our 2019 budget process. Hopefully, after your review and after the budget has been passed, staff will update the budget numbers that you're about to see for the 2018 revised budget and 2019 budgets, and then be able to post it to social media and the city's website. This video just gives a little bit better insight on the 2019 budget and puts it more into everyday terms so our citizens can better understand kind of what we go through. And then after that, I'll talk about our performance dashboard. Kind of on an annual basis, staff likes to review certain metrics, compare them to the past 5 years, kind of where we're at, look at our citizen satisfaction, what services do we need to improve on, what services are we already doing phenomenally on, which you'll see a lot of those tonight. But we just like to bring those forward during the budget process too, because we do so many great things. This is an opportunity for us to highlight those. After that, you will hear from Finance Director Maureen Rogers on the budget forecast highlights and the functional budget summary, and then briefly from the department heads. In front of you, you do have a handout, a couple handouts in front of you. You have in your packet a whole bunch of individual sheets that are the functional budget highlights that we're going to be discussing this evening. So those are summaries of all of the funds and the functions. You do have the work plan. On an annual basis, this work plan is updated by priority-based budgeting result. Staff separates all the projects they're going to complete within the next year or 2 years. These are high-level projects, usually multi-departmental, just things that we're going to work on throughout the next couple years. And then also you have the 2017 year-end report, hot off the press today. Will be posted to the city's website, but also just a summary of the things that the department heads are going to talk to you about tonight. So with that, I'll show you the budget video that we have created, and I hope you enjoy.
Every year, the City of Shawnee develops a budget that aims to provide quality public services every day. Here's a breakdown of what the 2019 proposed budget looks like. A little more than 89% of our general operating revenue comes from taxes, including property, sales, and franchise taxes. The other money comes from revenues like licenses, permits, and fines. A resident in the Shawnee Mission School District has 23% of their total tax payment go to support the city. 46% supports USD 512, 22% to Johnson County government, 8% to Johnson County Community College, and 1% to the state of Kansas. A resident in the DeSoto School District has 20% of their total tax payment go to support the city. 52% supports USD 232, 20% to Johnson County government, 7% to Johnson County Community College, and 1% to the state of Kansas. How does the revenue in Shawnee get spent? A majority of the revenue, 40 cents of every dollar, goes towards public safety. 33 cents goes to public works, 13 cents goes to general operations, 8 cents goes to parks and recreation, and 6 cents goes to community development. The city of Shawnee is financially secure. For example, in 2018, Shawnee received a AA1 bond rating from Moody's Investor Services for its general obligation bonds. Achieving this rating gives the city access to lower interest rates, saving money for taxpayers. Officials use proceeds from the general obligation bonds to construct municipal facilities and complete citywide street and stormwater projects. The City Council approves balanced or surplus budgets in all funds, and the proposed 2019 total city budget is $79.5 million. This budget is made up of funds that include the general operating, stormwater utility, special highway, public safety, and debt service funds. Total proposed 2019 budget adds more than 4 additional city staff members, including 2 additional staff in the police department and 1 additional staff member in the fire department. Shawnee continues to deliver high-quality services for residents' tax dollars at a great value. We do this by serving more residents per employee than our neighboring communities. City staff and the City Council take the responsibility of handling the financial resources of the city very seriously. This annual budget guides the city's plan for providing the services, facilities, and needed infrastructure that continues to make Shawnee the best place to live. For more details and information on the city's budget, please visit our website.
So I hope you enjoyed that. Again, once the governing body approves the 18 revised 19 budgets, we'll get these numbers updated and get that out to our citizens on the website and in social media. Just another way for us to explain how what the 2019 budget looks like, rather than reading through our big budget book, which I know is also super fun. So I'm going to just jump briefly into the performance dashboard. I know you have a summary of all of this up on the dais, and it's also included in the packet, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But we split our metrics out by our priority-based budgeting results, which I hope everyone here tonight got to complete that priority-based budgeting survey that I sent out a couple weeks ago. But for attractive, healthy, and well-maintained community, we did notice that some of our residents were not as satisfied with the overall image of the city, and we think some of that had to do with our code enforcement. So over the past few years, we have started to focus more on code enforcement, and I think in our next satisfaction survey, we're going to see some higher results in that fashion. For economic growth and vitality, the city continues to work towards our target goal of 30% commercial and industrial real estate valuation, and you can see that trend over time. For effective mobility and reliable infrastructure, during our last 2 citizen satisfaction surveys, 2 out of the 3 items that the citizens wanted to see staff and the governing body focus on more are the flow of traffic and our street maintenance, which both of those have been a very high effort by staff and the governing body over the last few years. So you can see that those scores have been increasing as well. Safe community, our public safety departments always get fabulously high ratings. Quality culture and recreational opportunities. Our Parks and Recreation Department is fantastic, as you know, and also get fantastic ratings on our citizen satisfaction survey. Environmentally sustainable and well-planned community. Our work plan in 2018-2019, which is included as a handout and also in your packets. Staff will be conducting a community strategic planning process with a community input, and hopefully the governing body will participate in that process as well. And then for good governance, 96% of residents who live in Shawnee rate Shawnee as a good or excellent place to live, which is absolutely fantastic. That just shows what great leadership is provided to staff. And then also, the only thing else I would like to point out here is there is a little bit higher per capita committed to general government. So that's the city manager's office, IT, legal, HR, and finance. And that bump in 2017 is just the unallocated public safety sales tax that the governing body will decide later this year or in subsequent years how to spend. Sure. So the total budget number for our general government, which includes our city manager's office, our internal services, how many dollars per citizen are we spending? And so that'll be $131. So it went up just a little bit because of that unallocated sales tax that we have from the county. It's just part of the city manager's budget that we're just kind of earmarking and holding until the governing body decides how to spend. With that, I'll turn it over to Finance Director Maureen Rogers. If the governing body would like, we can post it to social media and also on the city's website. It's just another way for staff and the governing body to educate our citizens on what the 2019 budget looks like.
That'd be a good idea. And transparent. Oh, yeah. That'd be
Oh,
great.
slow down. Okay. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Not quite as fast. Yeah.
Good evening. There's a number of funds that we have that are really not a lot different than they have been in the last several budget cycles. So unless anyone has some specific questions on them, they are just following the way they've been structured. There's not a lot of changes. And we will move on to the rest of the funds and just take a high-level look at any highlights or changes in those. Just before we get into the funds themselves, just a couple of overarching ideas. There is no increase to the mill levy built into this budget. And it does continue the mill shifting plan that we put into place several years ago, shifting from the debt service fund to the public safety equipment fund and the general fund. And there's actually very little of that remaining to do. Most of that shifting has already taken place as of the 2018 budget. So it's pretty much finished other than some small amounts. In the general fund, by statute, we're required to deposit those dollars into the general fund. It would be easier if we could make it into its own fund. But that is forecast around $1.6 million for 2019. When we first started talking about this funding source, we talked about it more conceptually, and we kind of said it would be $1.5 million every year just for the sake of discussion, but it actually does grow according to the growth percentages we talked about at the last meeting. So we've built those in. And some of this on this slide we kind of touched on the last time. So $500,000 flows to reserves, so it's not included in expenditures, and it ends up adding to reserves. And then the remainder of that courthouse revenue, including the growth each year, is accounted for in a project within the general fund, and it shows up actually in the funds as part of the city manager's budget. 2019 budget expenditures are around 5% over the 2018 budget, and as we get into the departments, they'll go into what makes up that increase. And the fund balance, we talked about this a little bit in the last meeting. We ended up with a $1.6 million surplus in the general fund in 17, which is 45% fund balance as a percentage of revenues. And so for this proposed budget, it has a 40% ending fund balance in 2018 revised and 33% in 19, which exceeds our policy target. And the forecast, as you can see here, and you have it in your handouts. As it does every year, it kind of tapers downward, and as we never spend all of our budget. Just like it did the last year, what it has done for a number of years is it kind of refills that deficit, so to speak, and we look at it every year and are able to adjust if it looks like that might not be the case. For the Public Safety Equipment Fund, that fund is now self-sustaining. We have made all the mill transfers that need to happen in there. It's no longer receiving any transfers from the general fund. So for the remaining 10 years of the forecast, it's at 1.3 mils, and it shows it being able to support the future equipment needs. One of the major parts of that is fire trucks. There are, in the early part of the forecast, there's debt-funded trucks with a maturity of 4 to 7 years. That debt ends in 2026, and then starting in 24, there are 3 cash-funded fire trucks. And so that's something we've been hoping to do for a long time, and with valuation increases in these mills, that it looks like that might be able to happen. The Parks Land Use Fund, which is funded by a development fee that's for that specific purpose, you will notice that there is a large, fairly good size increase in revenues in there. That is from the Holiday Sand operations. Previously, they've been working east of K7 over near Westlink, and over the last year or two, they've kind of changed their focus over to the west side of K7 to the Riverfront Park. So according to an agreement that was entered into a number of years ago, that money for that side of K7 goes into this fund for future development of the Riverfront Park. And my understanding is that they will be working on that project till 2030 or a number of years in the future. So that money will be just held for that purpose. Parks and Pipes, the park side of it is similar to last year. It just has a few projects in the forecast, and it includes what is out in the CIP and the maintenance plan that we saw a few weeks ago. It also includes $150,000 in 2018 revised for a statue, which there's a model of it there. I won't steal Neil's thunder at all, for Trail Scout Park at the former Ethiomart site. And the pipe side of this fund is pretty much completely programmed out for debt payments related to the Neiman Now County SMAC stormwater projects, specifically 6200 Neiman, Neiman Middle, and Neiman North. Neiman South is included in its debt payments are in the Economic Development Fund. The Stormwater Utility Fund, just structurally, there is an average over the 10-year forecast of about 1.6 million for pipe repairs each year. In 18 and 19, it's closer to 1.8 million, but over time, the compensation cost for the maintenance crews goes up, and then that is amount that is remaining for the repairs goes down over the forecast. The Public Safety Sales Tax Fund is currently the source for our debt payments on the Justice Center, and 2027 will be the last year for that 20-year bond issue. So we believe that there would be additional capacity, and there definitely will be once the maturity, but even as early as 2025, there could be something built or whatever the council at that time would want to do for other public safety needs. The Equipment and Facility Reserve Fund has an adequate overall structure. There's not a need to keep building up transfers into that. It's pretty much where it needs to be. There is a temporary funding increase for, it was 18 and continues in 19 to take care of some software needs that we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. Fiber build out, take advantage of fiber build out partnerships. In the debt service fund, it reflects the everything that's in the capital improvement program, which also reflects the CARS submittal, and then all outstanding debt, the bonds that have already been issued in the past that are not programmed in other funds. The debt service fund is showing, if you notice in the forecast, there is some fund balance, and there could be some future capacity, we think, depending on what all happens in the meantime of, for instance, about $7.5 million project in 2021 or 22. And the projects that are programmed out in the debt service fund, as I said, they're from the CIP. I just wanted to note that on the Neiman Road improvements, those are programmed in the Economic Development Fund for their first 5 years, and they switch over to the debt service fund starting in 2025, based on capacity in the Economic Development Fund, which we will talk about it on June 5th, along with the transient guest with the Chamber and Visit Shawnee. Fire Station 74 is programmed. We had to pick some way to put it in there, and so it is currently reflects option 1 from the May 8th presentation, which is the partial debt, partial courthouse. That is subject to change based on what the council decides. And then these other projects, fiber build out, 53rd Street, stormwater pipes, are all of the rest of these are in the CIP. I wanted to point out on the Monticello South Phase 1, the CIP shows 1.7 million because it includes 3 million in possible federal dollars. For this fund forecast, we've added in that 3 million in case we don't get the federal funds. So if we find that we do get them, there would actually be more capacity than what the forecast currently shows.
Jim.
Might need to have Mr. Whitaker help me with that, but because the stormwater fee was doubled, that has definitely helped. And then also with the 8 million bond project, that is definitely going to help. But you know that off when we can get that for you.
Doug Whitaker, Public Works Director. As I think my second meeting here, I had to tell you I needed $114 million. That still sits out there. We've probably got 30,000 feet of pipe that still is in rated 3s and 4s. We're continuing that video. This, with the 8 million bond, we'll pick up, we're looking at probably 8,500 feet that we'll pick up there. We will get 3 major projects done, that Widmer Road deal up there with and a couple other major ones, and then we'll continue with the 1.6 to 1.8 going. We've picked up the potholing and the sinkholes and like that. We've cleaned up a lot of those miscellaneous little ones out there in people's yards and like that, but we still got a lot of pipe that we got a lot of corrugated metal pipe that's 30 years old, but we're making progress. I mean, this will definitely help.
And we're replacing it with concrete, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah. No, we're not putting steel back in. Right. We're going to concrete or something that's better.
Any other questions on the forecasts? Well, this part's easy now because it's all been basically shown in the video in so much nicer way than these spreadsheets. So anyway, the functional budget, so that you can see the numbers behind it. The revenues without transfers for proposed 19 are almost $81 million, and they reflect conservative revenue growth like we talked about last time. From budget 18 to 18 revised is about a 1.5% increase, and from 18 revised to 19 is about a 2% increase. And then this is just, here's the 89% that was in the video and the 11, and then of that 89%, about 39% of the whole is sales tax, 34% property, and 16% other taxes, franchise, highway tax, liquor tax, guest tax. For expenditures, the video showed you the different percentages of the different functional areas. One couple things I wanted to point out here. Let's see. We'll talk a little bit more about this placeholder for the expenditures for the courthouse sales tax. In actual 17, this 654,000, that's what was actually put into this project for 2017, which was a partial year because it wasn't enacted till April 1st. And then for 18R, that revenue is around $1,040,000, but, and this is where the functional, I guess, departs a little bit from the funds. We went ahead and moved the siren expenditures up in public safety because that's been spent. So that's included in public safety. So, and then about $1,083,000 for 19. And that's actually shown in the city manager's budget. And also, a little bit about these numbers from 2018 budget to 2018 revised went up around $3.5 million. Each year in the Economic Development Fund, we have placeholders for different projects that may or may not happen. And so each year, if they don't, that money doesn't get spent, it rolls forward into the revised budget of the next year so that it would be available. And you see the kind of the same dynamic from 18R into 19. You see that 19 is actually quite a bit less, the total expenditures down at the bottom, than 18 revised. 18 revised went up because there in the Economic Development Fund, there was about $2.5 million in placeholders and expenditures that rolled into there. Some of them are actual expenditures, like the seeds for seed program loans for PBI Gordon and Service Master, and then there, and we'll get into, I don't know if I would need to get into all the detail on what those are because we'll talk more about those, but it's really the Economic Development Fund placeholders. And then also in the Special Highway Fund with the SIP Street Improvement Program reconstruction projects, this year we are doing Flint for $2.8 million. We've been saving up in that fund. And so those expenditures are in 18 revised, but then there isn't a street SIP project in 19. So those are two big reasons why 19 is lower than 18 revised. And this is kind of just a pie chart that shows the same information that was in the video. And then just to sum it all up, actually end with a surplus in 2019, because a lot of this really has to do with timing of projects, whether we had a 4.2 million surplus of all the funds together in 17, and then due to timing of projects, there's a deficit in the budget 18 and 18R, but then a surplus again in 19. Any questions on that? Okay, well, I'll turn it over to Chief Moser.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. It's Rob Moser, Chief of Police. Hope you enjoy the sculpture I brought. That's for the Mounted Patrol Unit I'm going to be proposing tonight. So before we go any further, I want to clarify that. Sorry,
want the
Neil,
thunder.
for your thunder. Huh? My own commanders didn't know that's what it was about. So speaking of the commanders, first thing I want to do is point out the fact that about 10 years ago, the police department started Police department started having the division commanders formulate their own budgets and propose it up through the chain, and then culminating with the chief proposing the budget to the council tonight. So I want to thank the commanders, from the deputy chief to the majors to the captains. They've worked hard over the past couple of months formulating the budgets for their divisions, and it's really worked well over the years. We found out that, with the succession planning we're doing, the fact that we're doing that, it's no surprise to somebody then when they get promoted and it's their budget to create because they've been a part of it as they're coming up through the ranks. So thank you all for doing that. So this is a slide of our 37 police programs we currently have in the police department. On our work plan, the bullet that I want to point out on this slide is the Community Outreach Relations and Engagement Program. That is the program we're wanting to grow from this year to next. It is the biggest new expenditure in the police department from this year to next, and that's because we're requesting 2 additional police officers to grow that program. By doing that, if we can get those 2 new officers and bring our 4 SROs into it and assign a sergeant to supervise that unit, we can then grow what we have right now is basically a 1-person show, a core officer, into a unit of a sergeant and 6 officers. And I'll talk a little bit here about why that's so important. The unit is just what the acronym stands for. It's crucial for building a reservoir of goodwill within our community. I don't think I need to explain why that's always a good thing, but we do that through events like Coffee with the Cop, the block parties that we're able to get to, and things like that. And the Roman Madrigal, who currently is the only person in that unit, he does go out to the police department and request folks to help out with this. It's just we're not getting it done like we can. We've only scratched the surface of what we can really do with this if we were to have a sergeant assigned to a unit to grow it even more. A lot of people don't know that one thing this unit, we were also asking it to do, but we're not doing as much as we want to. They actually go out and provide aid to the community. There's a program in Kansas City called Giving the Basics, and it's basically a lot of hygiene items that are donated to folks that's located down in the caves downtown. And different organizations within the metro can sign up to be a part of Giving the Basics, go in and receive truckloads of that, bring it back to their communities and disperse it. And right now, the only 2 police departments that I know of in the metro doing the program are Kansas City, Missouri, and Shawnee. And it's something we heard about and brought back, and we thought, there's a need in our community. There's a need in all these communities for this. And right now we're, again, talk about scratching the surface. We've done a couple programs. We've given the basics programs at some complexes in the city. It's went over huge. It's been very appreciated. It's provided a lot of aid to folks who need that, have that need in the community. And so that's something we want to even do more of. Again, no cost to us except growing our program. These are donated items. We're able to come back and build relations while we're providing the same. What I don't want to get lost, though, is the fact that the main reason that we need to grow this program is because it is our crime prevention unit. It is going to make us a safer community. These folks, when they do their outreach efforts, they're building trust in the community. They're partnering with folks to engage in crime reduction strategies that we educate them on to help partner with us to reduce crime. And some of those things are like the crime resistance community policing that we do in our apartment complexes, working with management, working with residents, building that trust so that when crime does happen, they will help us get offenders off the street, move people along as we need to. Social media, we're not doing the social media work we really should be now. We have just opened up our own Twitter and police department Facebook pages, but we don't have, again, 1 person. We can't give the attention to that we need to. And so if we can put this unit together, just by getting these 2 new officers, bringing this whole unit together, we can give that the kind of attention that it deserves to make this a safer community and just for an example, in case you're wondering what kind of messages we need to get out, it's the one that I always touch on. We still see 80% of our crimes to vehicles being done to vehicles that are unlocked, unsecured, or valuable, unlocked or unsecured. In the wintertime, they're running. And we've tried so many things to try and get that message out. We can do better. And if we could just get folks to cut that number in half for us, you're going to see our crime rate come down, partnering with us. Next slide. Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't found a way yet to measure what Roman has been trying to do the past couple of years, what effect it's had. I will say this, 2015 we had a spike in Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. I was very pleased to see in 2016 and in 2017, those numbers came down each year. 2018, again, there's a lot of theories on why crime rates fluctuate. 2018, first quarter, we're up again. It's not unique to us. It's a countywide thing, as I understand it, talking to my peers. But it is up again now. So it's kind of a fluctuating thing. Great to see it come down the past couple of years, up again a little bit. Always something we're mindful of, and always something, again, being progressive and trying to look for new opportunities to innovate and make ourselves better. This is what we've come up with as far as, again, to put a crime prevention unit back together. So on this slide, I'll point out the Unmanned Aerial System Program. Drone for short is what you've heard of it. The police department has 2 of them. Both those pictures were taken with our drones. One is of the Clear Creek Parkway, and the other is actually relates to the second bullet on the slide there, some improvements that we're making to the Justice Center grounds out there. You've probably seen that when you drive by on Johnson Drive. But it's not just for taking pretty pictures like that. Obviously, when we have major crime scenes, accident scenes, searching for people, assisting the canine officers in searching for people, we can put the drone up and try and relay into them the information that we're seeing from the air. So it obviously has an operational impact. And then aside from that, it's a citywide program. Even though they're housed in the police department, I want you to think of it citywide. We've had the communications department request to use it for some of the videos and productions they're doing. And then the fire department, believe it or not, they asked the police department for help. Okay. Boom, boom. All right. So anyway, the fire department has requested the help with getting up and taking some aerials of apartment complexes for the work they do to get those maps, and so that their firefighters know where to enter from and things like that. Okay. Then the other bullets just depict some of the work we're doing in our work plan as we go. So these are some of our budget highlights. Let you read down through those. The core, the 10 vehicles we replace every year. Records management system we're hoping to implement late this year or early next year. A new scanner that we need. The one we have now is currently a 2005 version, very much outdated, not supported anymore. This is much more accurate, can be ran with one officer. It's today's technology. Some other needs there. We have end-of-life devices that need replaced. Wanted to bring your attention to a need we have that we don't actually have in the budget right now, but it's coming, and that's our radios for both fire and police. The Metropolitan Area Regional Radio System Consortium is adopting the federal recommendation to transition to a system which will make our interoperability better. And so for our radios to continue functioning on that system, we have to get them replaced by 2020, because 2021 is when that transition will happen.
Would
So
there be a co-op buy, like
It's off a
community
county
buy from
contract.
all
That's-
different?
It's a county contract, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it'd be filling everybody.
Right. Yeah, the whole metro area is,
Right.
Add to that the fact that basically forces us into it, but add to that our current radios are at 8 years, they're 10-year life radios, they're at 8 years right now. It's going to be time for a change anyway. Just to give you a picture of what we're looking at money-wise, it looks like it's going to be about $1.1 million for fire and police both. And that does include the upgrades to the dispatch consoles that'll be needed for that change. And I'm going to ask for a more detailed presentation to be given by the folks with that expertise on our department to you probably a sooner date than later, because there's 3, 5, and 7-year payment plans that we can look at and bring to you for consideration. There may also be early purchase payment discounts that we can look at and things like that. So we're definitely going to try and do this. Very much a need. We're going to try and do it with the best dollar cents we can.
It is. It is. And that's a good deal. Yeah.
So as I go through my tables here, you can see we held the line, actually had some reductions on contractual services and commodities. Personnel services is where our increase is, and I can explain that. That's the fact that the 5 COPS grant officers you approved last year, each year the city takes on an additional amount of that funding for them. So those 5 officers, not fully funded next year, that won't happen until 2020 by the city, but next year we take on a larger share of it. Merit increases, the annual merit increases are built into those personnel services. And then the 2 officers that we're requesting to grow the community outreach program, it'd be $175,000 of that right there for those 2 officers. Public Safety Equipment Fund, our vehicles are bought out of there, and then other police equipment, radars and such. Justice Center debt, Maureen talked about that. I just skipped one. Okay. Special Alcohol Abuse Fund, we fund a portion of our SROs salaries, benefits, and training out of that. Police facilities, there's some work to be done with some sealant on the exterior of the building. Justice Center land, Special NARC Fund. We had a spike in that this year because we had to replace a canine sooner than we thought. We thought it was going to be next year. As luck would have it, we replaced one this year. But the money was in there to do it, so we did it out of there. And then that fund also is for the canine training and the taser replacements each year. And I'm just going to breeze right through fires if you don't mind. Maybe not. Okay.
Well, you already helped him.
I could have. Any questions for me? No. All right. Thank you all.
Hard act to follow. John Maddox, Fire Chief. So I'll go through ours. It's kind of like the same format. Here's our 17 programs. We established those when we started the priority-based budgeting, identified those. Those remain the same. Our work plan, just a couple things on here. One of the big ones for us this year is going to be the review and update of the Continuity of Operations Plan, the COOP plan. That kind of goes, that is the local level of the Local Emergency Operations Plan that is more bigger picture countywide. We have recruited representatives from all the departments in the city, and our Emergency Services Chief, Matt Epperson, is heading that up, and they have started their meetings to revise that, review it, revise it, and get that published this year. For the city, it's been quite a while since we've done that. Fire Station 74 obviously has been part of our work plan, continues to be. If you've been out there, it looks a lot different. We're turning dirt, which is a very positive thing. And then one of our other work plan is to conduct a fire facilities master plan. You remember last fall we held the meeting at the fire station for the council to see. And so you'll see as we move into the budget, we're hoping to employ an architect and a construction firm to help us with that. And that reflects in there. We've gotten pricing from them and what that would take for them to help us with that. And it's a complete fire facility master plan. It's just not what to do with Station 71. So that's about a $50,000 study and work. But we're hoping to start that this year and then have that presentation to bring back to the council later this year with what we see the future fire facilities looking like. Budget highlights, you'll see the $50,000 there for that study. In-house fire apparatus testing and certification. We have started using Public Works mechanics more. They do a lot of our preventive maintenance, and they are taking on some more advanced repairs. They have started going to some emergency vehicle technician training. Anytime we hear of it, we send it to Public Works, and if they're available and can go, they've been going. They just went last fall to a pump class. Another big one that they just went to, which, hold on to your seat, this is exciting. They went to a TAC 4 inspection class, which all of our front axles under our trucks are TAC 4, and they require an annual inspection and maintenance that we've been paying dearly for. And so we think we're going to be able to get that done in-house. But we put in there to continue that training. They're great when we call them. They drop what they're doing. They come out, and they want to do more. So we want them to do more as well. The one position that you saw in the video, the fire prevention officer, and just for an example, we've had the unfortunate fortune of having a firefighter on restricted duty, an extended restricted duty, and we put him in fire prevention, and he spent about 6 months in there in 2017, and our inspections went from 444 in 2015 to 604 in 2016 to 2021 in 2017. If you remember, we added the fire prevention officer that started 16. She went and got a lot of her training. She's got her training now. We've had him in there, and it's just been amazing the numbers they've done. So, and then water rescue boat, our Zodiac, the rubber boat, it reaches 10 years in this year, due for replacement. So you don't want to be out in a rubber boat that's getting old. No, that's our fire marshal, the prevention officer, and then our firefighter that's been in there. I had the breakdown. 877 were initial inspections, 630 were re-inspections, and 514 of those were technical inspections. Technical inspections include hood system, fire alarm, underground fire line, sprinkler system, but that's all. I mean, they call for just those, and those are considered technical inspections, and all three of those will do those. So, personal services. So here's our budget spreadsheet. Our growth there in the personal services. We hired the 6 firefighters this year. We didn't have them for a whole year. We'll have their full salaries in 19. So that goes into that. Fire prevention officer person is in there, as well as the anticipated merit increases. The commodities bump is, we are scheduled to replace all of our MDTs, our mobile data terminals, and our fire apparatus and staff cars. Those are at end of life in 19. So we're scheduled to replace those. Those are the ones that jump out. Public Safety Equipment Fund. Maureen talked a little bit about this. Those 4 to 7 year maturities on those lease payments. 18, you can see what it is. 19, it goes down a little bit. Fire equipment. We don't have any big purchases planned in 19. Our debt service to pay for Station 2 out there. Facility maintenance. You'll see a big difference from 18 to 18R. We are postponing a lot of the work at Station 71 until we decide what we need to do with it. We're only doing the necessities. We've put off, we have a couple roof air conditioners on that south side we haven't replaced. HVAC units, we don't use that site as much. We did have to do some pavement work there because it was really getting bad. And then in 19, you'll see it kind of jumps back up. We have a few things in 19. We have Station 3 has some pavement work. We do have an we skipped the HVAC. We have some roofing at Station 71 and some roofing at Station 73 we have to do. And then we're replacing our vehicle exhaust systems at 71 and 73. We debated on doing 71, but whatever we decide to do with 71, we can take it out and put it in a different building or take it out for renovation, whatever we need to do. So we're proposing to move forward and replace both those in 19.
We still have one new fire truck coming though, right? It's being built,
We have two.
two that are being
Yeah.
built right now.
Yeah, we expect delivery on the engine in August, the engine that was purchased with Station 74. And then the ladder truck, we anticipate delivery in February. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We've already talked to him about that. And it's funny, when we started talking to the architect, he goes, "Why do you want to renovate a 40-year-old building?" And I said, "Well, if it makes dollar sense to do that, we do. We want to, but if it doesn't make sense, then so." Right. Right.
We have, on the sales tax, it's actually paying for the Justice Center at this point, that has no sunset in it, is up in 2025 possibly? Is that possible? But it possibly could be 25, parts of it.
The debt runs out at the last year's 27, but it's because you build something and then you don't bond it and the
Right.
next payments are, it's a couple years, then even maybe in 25. They're-
Right.
Depending on what.
But is it a chance that, if the plans could go into effect, that money could continue on and go to this other station and start paying for it?
That's
I vote
possible.
yes. I don't
vote
get a
yes?
vote, sorry.
But would that make
Sorry,
more
Rob.
sense? Wouldn't that make more sense to do something like that? And by the time we get our plans together but we still have to maintain the facility at this period of time.
But
But we do have
keeping it-
a revenue coming in with no sunset that is good for building payments.
I hope to bring you a presentation later this year on that. And yeah, absolutely, we'll have options. Yeah. Right. That's the plan. Questions?
Thank you. You and Rob make each other look good. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Bettina Jamerson, Court Supervisor for the Municipal Court. For our work plan, we are looking to analyze the cost of off-site storage versus on-site storage and determine which is most cost-effective. Currently, the majority of our court files are maintained off-site at Iron Mountain. And when we went paperless 4 years ago, we stopped generating any paper, any folders. We scanned in all our open cases, so we cleared out some space in our file room. So we want to look and see if it's more cost-effective to bring those back, both in the court storage and in the city archives. Budget highlights, we just have a couple of things. We are looking at converting a part-time position to a full-time. We have a part-time clerk that is retiring. So good time for us to convert that to full-time. It's only a cost of $4,500. That is if the person we hire elects full family coverage. So there is the potential that it would be less than that. Also, our audiovisual equipment, is at a 10 years old that needs to be replaced. And our fingerprinting machine, which is how we report convictions to KBI, is more than 10 years old. So we're looking to replace that equipment. Just a snapshot of the general fund and our public safety fund for court and the debt service fund. If no one has any questions, I will turn it over to Doug Whitaker.
You guys are buzzing right through this. I know. They're saving you a lot of time.
Doug Whitaker, Public Works Department. You told me the mouse would work, and it's not. We're set up the same way as everyone else. There's 22 programs in the combined Public Works and with bringing city engineering into the organization. Some of our major items in our department work plan, I want to point out there's the 75th Street there, the bottom one from Schweitzer to Clavera will be designed later this year, and then we'll do that project in 2019. That's a major one coming up. And here it's the bonded stormwater. We already kind of talked about that, but the $8 million there, like I said, it'll be 3 major projects and right around 8,500 feet of pipe that we'll try to replace. Again, we can adjust that. If we can get more in, we'll do more or less, whatever we need to do to hit the numbers. Obviously, Neiman Road will continue. There's been lots of meetings and public meetings on that. That's one of our major items that we're working on. And then here is Flint. Flint is under construction, basically is getting going. The utilities and everything are getting relocated right now, and they're starting. In fact, I think they milled up the road just last week, the old surface, so they're beginning to get a little more into construction there. And as far as budget highlights, really most of them on there are just our normal annual work. The really only major change as you look down through there is the last one is just the incorporation of with the retirement of Doug Weschel-Schmidt. We've taken development services and pulled the engineering portion into the Public Works Department, and then the development side has gone into the community development. So we look at the general fund, really no significant changes. The way you're seeing the personnel services go, that's just where we've crunched the engineering in, and then as we adjusted there going forward. And then the other major changes in the capital outlay this year, we have that third parking structure out at the service center to do, which would be paid in 18, and then obviously that money that's about 180,000 wouldn't be there in 19, so that's the reason for the drop there. Special highway, this is our normal program. It fluctuates, like I said, this year, as Maureen's already pointed out, this year we're doing Flint, so there's an increase up to 2.8 million. Obviously, it shows nothing for SIP in 19. We're saving money for the next, as the tax dollars come in, the sales tax comes in, we're saving that for the next project. These are debt service payments related to the Economic Development Fund there in the top portion, and then just debt service for the street improvements that are out there that Maureen referenced. And then these are debt service payments on the stormwater projects, especially on Neiman Road, related to, coming out of the Parks and Pipe Fund. And then the stormwater utility, obviously 2 years, last year was our first year with where we doubled the fee, and we were able to get up, as you can see, we had a little bit of carryover from 16, so we were able to do about $2.2 million in pipe repairs, and we're doing right around 1.8 this year, and we'll do about 1.8 next year. And that 1.8 is in addition to the 8 million in 19, so we'll be getting closer to 10 million. So that'll help us quite a bit with those issues with all the pipes. And then the equipment, facility and reserve fund. Caitlin kind of went over some of that earlier, and Maureen, the 2 trucks, and then just some work out at the Public Works facility that is getting close to 20 years old, needs some just some work in some of the roofs and parking lot and like that. And with that, if there's any questions, yes.
Jim?
For this year, they've completed what we call the northeast section. They're working in the southeast section, which is primarily east of 435, and then we'll go out to the western section of the city. We have done Clare Road just because that was a major area to go ahead and overlay that one, and Johnson Drive. But basically, as they're working with the curb and gutter, the concrete guys get out, then they do mill and overlay, and then they'll kind of catch up, so they pull off until they get some more concrete work done, and then they'll go back out and mill and overlay some more.
Go ahead, Mr. Champion. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Very good job. Thank you. Go ahead.
So at the next council committee meeting, you'll have the CIP, and we are preparing those sheets for those ones that you all brought up earlier. And then the Planning Commission had a recommendation for 71st Street, so we'll have some information about that too. And then Maureen talked a little bit earlier about some capacity in 2021 in the debt service fund. So you all can decide if that's how you would like, if you'd like to add to the CIP. So at the council meeting next Tuesday night, you'll have that opportunity. And then also at the next budget session after the discussion with the chamber and the Visit Shawnee. So.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, I'll turn it over to Neil.
We have till 10 o'clock. Neil Holman, Parks and Recreation Director. Good evening. I also would like to, I have with me Tanya Leck here, the Deputy Director as well. All right, here we go. The Parks and Recreation budget, we do have 23 programs, and they've stayed the same. They have not changed. The work plan, develop streetscape master plan for Shawnee Mission Parkway. This is also, I think, the unmet need as well. Part of this is from Schweitzer to Meadman. And if you drive down there, years ago, we didn't have plants there. It's all mulched. There were some trees in, things died, and we need to bring that back up. The unmet need is from Meadman to Schweitzer, have that whole corner. I think if Kevin Manning was here, I think he, at one time on Shawnee Mission Parkway is one of the busiest streets in Johnson County. I mean, it almost, I think it rivals Metcalf, is what if I remember correctly. So, it is our gate. We do need to clean it up. This one's a fun one. The nature play that we did out at Erford Park is just the popularity of that has just exploded. A lot of kids go out there for that. So we would, on that, it's a sense texture garden for the kids to go out. And then also there's some decking and stuff that would also be included in this. We're also working with the Master Gardener, Johnson County Master Gardeners program to really make this
kind of a neat program. So a neat area. Sanitation, we've got a great bid on that. All right. We are rebidding. The bids came in high. We've re-looked at, we've talked to the bidders. We've kind of re-looked at how we can kind of build the two buildings, and hopefully those will go back out to bid in June. So we're working on that right now with the architect. Just the Shawnee Community Center out west. The surveys, everyone got one. It was kind of the sample that's going out. So they are going out this week. Then we will, once we get those back, we'll have the Perkins will come make a presentation in August. So we'll see where that's going to go. Community center improvements upstairs, those are going out to bid. We are still looking at the accreditation. We're still going down that path. So now we get to the fun part. Okay, Neiman Now, the project, has opened up a lot of opportunities. It's just not all concrete and asphalt. Sorry, Doug. It's created some areas for green space. We walk down there and just some areas just to hang out. One of the areas, and I know that one of the areas that I stayed away from until finally the project was, the construction was done. The Ethiopia one, that was the one where council wanted to come back and try to get some development on there, some businesses. And it didn't work out. It would not support business because of the lay of the bank, and there's just a real tiny strip. So on that piece. So we came in and had a plan. And so this is Trail Scout Park. This is a statue right here. This is the statue will be roughly about 15 feet tall on top of the stones, which is probably another 5 feet. So it will come up. The statue is facing back to Pioneer Crossing. So a little bit about the statue. The statue is James Butler. James Butler came to Shawnee. He was a scout. He worked for Dick Williams, who ran the wagon trains at. He was the wagon master here in Shawnee. Later on, he went to Monticello, the township of the town of Monticello, and became a deputy sheriff. And his nickname was Wild Bill Hickok. Lenexa has a park of Wild Bill Hickok Park. We've chosen to do Trail Scout Park. And then as you see I don't have a pointer, but as you see on you'll have placards. There'll be 3 of them. One will be facing, I can't think of the bank. It was the old Taco Bell on Neiman. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's where the Black Star Blacksmith shop is. That's where all the oxens were shoed. They didn't have cows. They used oxens because their hoofs were strong for all the sandy soils that they had to cross. So, and then the other one will be facing out west. And this will talk about Wild Bill and Monticello and the history and how he came to Shawnee and about him. Then the other one will look at CVS, by CVS. Well, and old timers all remember that's where the wagon master's house was, the old stone house up on the hill. So we do know where some of the stones are at the park because we took some for the exhibit at Shawnee Town. So we'll take some of those back and create a little more of a pedestal, maybe around the pedestal for the placard. So this is one that we've asked that for 18R, so it has come back with all the development happening that we would like to, once Demon, the park is in the project, or it's hopefully going to be part of the project, so the park will all be done. Everything you see will be done except the statue. So that's where, we got to have a statue. That's the cherry on top. So
It's going to be like 15
Parks and
feet tall.
Pipes. Huh?
It's going to be like 15 feet tall.
Yes. A life-size statue is 7.5 feet. So you have the horse and you have a person on there. So it's roughly in his hat. He's looking back to be cocked, and they'll be under lighting on Shawnee Mission Parkway. He's looking back at the wagons. And, come on up. It's all good to go. So anyways, this is a kind of exciting project. A lot of history, and it's fun, especially for on Shawnee Mission Parkway.
Oh, yeah.
As you come into town. So the budget highlights are, yes, the Trail Scout Park. Pretty good size statue. I can break it down. Charles Goslin is helping. He's done all the statues. We just love working with him. His price, his fees around $30,000, and then we do have bids. We would then go to Lawrence. In fact, we're going to make it. The statue will be developed and all put together at the old fire station in 72 on Midland. So he did black Chief Blue Jacket in his basement. We had to take his head off to get him out. So we had to roll him out and then take him down the foundry. But so this one, we can, with the fire station doors, we can just put him on the trailer, strap him down, and then take him to Lawrence to get bronzed. So on that one. So the next one is the park master plan. Now we have done the community center master plan. So we had 13 teams. They all came in. It's going to be that same type of a group. They've all teamed up. So we had 13 of them. We did interviews. We did presentations. That was just for the community center, okay? The Parks and Pipes master plan, the Parks and Recreation master plan is for the whole park system. All 34-acre parks, Shawnee, 2 pools, museum. We've got the third of a mile. We have the bike master program, recreational trail on street. If we could bring all that together and have our own strategic plan that would help us grow in the future. It really has helped police, fire, public works with their accreditation, and this is a major step in our accreditation that we need to have. And it would give you guidelines and to move forward with all, because we've got, like I said, we have 34 parks with 1,022 acres. How all that will come together. So the 120 is, so I'm gonna come back to you later this year, and I'm gonna ask if we can extend Perkins Will's contract to be able to do the whole master plan. Now the 120 is if we've got to start from scratch. So it will be cheaper if we can extend the contract. And good team. They've done a good job on the community center stuff. They're good to work with. And like I say, we had 13 teams. They're all going to be pretty much the same groups again. And we've already interviewed and did presentations. So, but I will be bringing that back and just see what you want to do. So, and there will be a public input. Our next needs assessment that we do every 5 years. That will also be a part of this as well. What's in there? This is our budget. I gave myself a heck of a salary, a raise. No, this is it is person, merit, health. We do, it's kind of Parks and Rec. We have 27 full-time people. We've got, you're going, wow. But then you've got part-time, but then we have 180 seasons. We're battling with McDonald's and Burger King, trying to fill. At the area directors meeting, there are so many cities that are they're having a hard time filling lifeguard positions. So we've been very lucky. Sean does an excellent job. So we're all set. We're ready to go for this weekend. Land acquisition. This is the land that we bought Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's, west of the community center, or the civic center. And then the $5,000 was the escrow that we kept, and they moved out, and then they got it. Parks and Pipes, again, the community center studies in there, playground upgrades, and then the Scout project. Wild Bill, I guess we're calling it. Cemetery, doing good. And then Marine and even Caitlin's talked about all the equipment and facilities. And I think you've even got a sheet on that.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
They may not understand the cemetery bit. If you can maybe give them a quick little highlight. Did you go over the cemetery?
Yeah.
So you understand all that? We own them because default?
Yes.
It's a state law. It comes back to us. So. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
No, yeah, we did.
I think we even talked about when we kind of met. Maybe. Okay. I thought we did. So debt, Pioneer Crossing. Remember last year we had Stump Park. I had two. So Stump Park was done last year. And then Pioneer Crossing will be 2021. And then we'll pay off.
One thing I'd like to mention on the Scout Park, it's pretty cool that it's coming up like it is, but the reason for Pioneer Park, from what when I remember, was that was a accident trap constantly when it had the camper sales there. And I remember the other building was a Midwest tent, and then before that was motorcycle shops and all kinds of shops, but it was an accident-prone place all the time. We were trying to find something as you drove into Shawnee, and all that we found available was that spot in order to do what we did to make Pioneer Crossing, which is great. It looks great, but it looks more like on the outskirt, and this brings it to the inskirt or inside. This other park, it's perfect, and you've got one here, and this one here is looking back to bring them ahead. It's wonderful.
The passive parks, they have a park. You know, they're
Yeah.
parks and it's just not all playground, baseball fields,
Right.
and stuff. It's the passive parks like history.
It's a great idea, and to be able to have one as we're coming in is really cool.
Yes. Military trail. The military trail. So if you go down the Pioneer Crossing, Santa Fe goes around us and everything. California is out west. It's more up. The military trail goes right where Night Roads was, where the stoplight is. And there's a map on the center placard at Pioneer Crossing. It shows the trails. At California. And it touches the bottom part of too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Question? Well, thank you very much.
Anybody else?
All right.
This is like the last one for Paul.
Yes, this will be my last budget presentation. Paul Chaffee, Community Development Director. This is a listing of programs in the Community Development Department. There are 3 new ones this year that come over from Development Services, the Floodplain Administration, and the Private Development Plan Review and Project Inspection. In our work plan, all of our projects are important. I'm going to highlight 6 of them. 2 relate to future development, and one is the identification of infrastructure needed to enhance and support additional commercial development. We know we have parts of towns that we'd like to see developed, but for one reason or another, we need to extend water, sewer, streets. So we're going to go out and work with the chamber and identify those locations, as well as updating the city's land use guide for the area west of Monticello Road and especially west of K7 Highway. That's our future, and where we have all of our green development, we need to get it right as we go through. Then also we have activities related to the older portion of the community. We'll be updating the downtown portion of the comprehensive plan in light of the NEMA Now activities, and also enhance the neighborhood assist program. One of the other items that we're doing is reviewing the 2018 International Building Code with all the other Johnson County cities. So early in 2019, you'll see a request to adopt the 2018 code. And all the cities are getting together to go through the code to identify items that maybe we want to modify and adjust. And then Shawnee, we've made adjustments that other cities haven't in the past. So we're going to get that all together for you. The other thing that we started to undertake and will continue to do is expand our code enforcement education activities. If you get in on the website or on CityLine, we have neat neighbor tips that are out there. Surprisingly, some of them are, don't forget to mow your yard, or clean the leaves out of the culverts in front of your house, or your garbage cans are supposed to be behind the front of your house. Just things that you would think that would be really simple, that quite frankly we get a lot of complaints about, and we have to go out and do inspections on those types of things. For our budget highlights, we have a $15,000 transfer from the general fund for the Downtown Partnership for Downtown Programs for the grants, loans. There are some other activities that we can do with those funds. A few years ago, we purchased the parking lot there at the southwest corner of Barton and Johnson Drive, just across the street. That was an opportunity that came out, and so we used some funds that had been built up that account for that. The human services funding is in the community development budget. There are 4 service agencies that we provide funding for according to PS4. And then this is also where we pay for the administrative costs for the minor home repair program that Johnson County provides the services for us, which is a really great bargain. Also the county's home program match and the match that we have for the utility assistance program. Also in the budget, when I get to the budget sheet, you'll see the incorporation of the development engineering from the former Development Services Department. We have a building inspector, the 3rd building inspector. We had done some contract work for 4 months, and now we have the 3rd inspector on staff. We're running over 550 inspections a month. And with the 3rd inspector, it's helped a lot, but you may be hearing from us again next year as we have some pretty large projects that are coming up, and it may be that we need to take a look at doing contract work on 1 or 2 of those projects also, just to free our folks up to do the normal everyday thing. And then in the budget, we have in 2018 some land management software that'll help us provide better tracking of development projects in-house, and also to provide enhanced real-time communications with builders and developers on their review status or their inspections. So when our inspectors are done with the project, they can send the builder whether they passed or failed, why did you pass or fail, and then they can contact back with our inspector while he's out in the field what specifically was the problem, and we'll have the ability to send pictures back and forth and do some real-time discussion. So hopefully that'll help them out. In the budget boxes, the increase in personal services is bringing over the 4 positions out of development services and adding the building inspector in there. And then the 2019 decrease is because of a retirement. This is Neighborhood Revitalization Fund, 215. It funds the downtown services, grants, loans, interest rate buy-downs. Area A and Area B are in the KNRA. It's a great program that we have. The area in the orange was the original KNRA area, and then the green is the area that we've added about 5 years ago. So since the beginning of the program 15 years ago, 59 properties have participated in the program. 26 of the properties have completed their rebates. What they get is a rebate of 90% of the value of their taxes related to the incremental increase in their property. And they get that over a 10-year period of time. So 25 have gone through the process. We have 15 that are active. There's 7 properties that'll begin in 2018, 6 that'll begin in 2019, and 8 that have projects pending. And the reason they're pending is that we have the application in, but they're not complete with their projects. Some of them are some single-family homes for the most part. And, sure. It is property tax abatement on the improvement, not on the land value. Right, land value does not. Yeah, and the value of the improvement is actually calculated by the appraiser rather than what the property owner says that he puts it in. 5 years ago, we added the green area.
5 years ago.
Yeah, the first 10-year period that we had is in the orange, and then the green, we added the orange and the green together are in the current program. We have 5 more years on that program. And actually what will happen is if a property comes in 2022, and that's the beginning of their rebate period, the last rebate's made in 2031. So there may not be a new opportunity to participate in a program, but the payments are still made over a 10-year period. And I'm assuming that 4 years from now, we'll be looking at continuing the KNRA program and maybe looking at some other areas to include in that project. So with that, any questions?
Thank you, Paul.
You get to hear from me again. Thank you guys. I'm just going to talk about the city council's budget and also the city manager's budget. And then we'll talk about our other internal services. So we're kind of done with the public facing part of the city for tonight, but we're almost done. We only have a few slides left. As far as the city council, there's just a minor increase this year. There was a slight overlap of the ingoing and outgoing council members, so that's why you're going to see that increase there. As far as the city manager's office, 47 programs, and those are in our administration, legal, city clerk, human resources, municipal court, communications, and general overhead divisions. The only changes that were made over since last year's budget is there were 2 positions moved from the Public Works Department with the reorganization and Doug Wesselschmidt's retirement into the city manager's office. As part of our work plan, I'm not going to talk about each of these, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. I did get a call from BNSF today. I know, shocking. But the 55th Street Railroad crossing should be silenced by June 1st. Apparently, they had a glitch in their system, and when they went to go report that the crossing was closed, something happened and it never went through. So they said the next update to that system is on June 1st. There is a temporary override that they can make to the automated train horns, which is what they are.
Half of them are blowing and half of them are not.
Yes, I'm very well aware. And I really hope that I give you a June 1st date and that happens. I know they've given us a number of dates before, so I'm like not holding my breath, but I really hope that next Friday is the date. I am in almost constant communication with them, and I hope to not be anymore. So I hope next Friday is the day. On this slide, I wanted to point out that you've heard over with the beautiful picture. I've heard, or as you've heard over these presentations tonight, we've had a number of position retirements. We have a fantastic HR department who is helping recruit and fill those positions and also backfill a number of vacant positions we have within the city. There's just a lot of movement going on right now, and we have a good staff to do that.
One in the middle stole the show.
To continue, you may have noticed the monitors out here in the City Hall lobby and then also at the Civic Center. I know our communications team is just trying to get more information out, as much information out as we can, events, updates. I know you do on social media. We have a website, but it's just another opportunity for us to get information out to the public. So we're going to continue that project in all of our city facilities for internal communications and external communications. As far as the budget highlights, we have a number that I've already spoken about, but as far as the community strategic plan, I spoke about it just a little bit, but it's coming out of the Economic Development Fund, and really it's an opportunity for staff in the governing body to get input about our priorities and budgeting decisions, kind of to expand on our priority-based budgeting that we've already been doing, but just get some community involvement with what direction we want this community to lead in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, bring in a consultant, make that strategic plan, kind of just a visioning for the future. A total compensation policy, we do, as the governing body approved in policy statement 67, which is our total compensation policy, the city updates its pay plan on an annual basis and then reviews its total compensation policy every 3 years. So 2019 will be that third year review. A biannual citizen satisfaction survey, I've referenced that a number of times tonight. 2019 is the next time that will occur. There is money in the budget for an election later this year in regards to the community center if the governing body would like to proceed. The city clerk would like to have or investigate better records management now that we're potentially and hopefully trying to go paperless. We just need better management systems for those paperless records. And then also, as Bettina spoke about earlier, just kind of we have a lot of physical records left over as well. There is $300,000 in the Facility Equipment Reserve Fund for a City Hall remodel design. Should the council decide to move forward with any facility improvements from the performance contracting or the energy management projects, it'd be an ample time to review the layout of the City Hall, if there are any security needs, citizen satisfaction, customer service, stuff like that. As far as the city manager's budget, like I said, there were 2 positions moved into the general fund from the Public Works Department. And then the capital outlay is that unallocated courthouse sales tax that the governing body can choose to spend. For the Equipment and Facility Reserve Fund, just some minor projects here at City Hall. We don't want to move forward with too many projects in case the governing body wants to continue with the performance contracting as we discussed earlier this year. Those RFQs are out right now, so we should be hearing back within a month or so, and that will come forward to the governing body for future projects. But there are some minor maintenance projects we need to do here at City Hall if we choose to move forward with that or not. And then, like I said, the City Hall remodel design, just in case the earmarked for that if the governing body wants to move forward. With that, I'll turn it over to Maureen Rogers.
We have 9 programs in finance, and they are the same as they have been. Our work plan is centered around selecting and replacing our financial software system. Our system is at end of life, and it has limited functionality and limited use outside of the finance department. I'm really excited that as an organization, we have partnered with a consultant to help us come, and we are having meetings with representatives of departments to assess their needs, to be able to integrate departments into this software and be able for efficiencies and how they can use it to finding manual processes, for instance, that they're spending time doing that could be part of this software. And so we're in that process of having meetings to find out what processes go on when the departments set up their budgets or make purchases that could all be streamlined that will help us select the best system. And then also help them implement and use it to a much greater extent than the one we have now. In budget highlights, we've added around $10,000 for additional professional services as we have more GO bond activity. There's SEC disclosures and arbitrage calculations, different things that we contract for that have increased. And as we've had UltiPro for our HR payroll for a while, we have a better idea of what those costs are, so we've added a little more for that. In the past, we've been calling this new software the finance software, but as we make the conversation broader throughout the organization, we'll be switching that over to calling it the enterprise software. For 19, we've added $100,000 in additional budget to this project. Actually, altogether, it's around $600,000. There was $100,000 in 17. There's $350 in 18, and then $150 altogether there in 19. So all of that was in the budget before, except for this $100,000 in 19. On personal services, that increase is due to the regular compensation increases, and then also we've added a summer intern, and then I mentioned the contractual services. There's not any questions. We'll IT Director Melba.
Thank you, Marie.
Well, good evening. Mel Bunting, IT Director of the city. I think I'm the last of the operational departments, so yeah, we'll get started. The IT department still has the basic 9 programs that were established back when we built the priority-based budgeting programs. Our work plans are probably centered around 2 things, which would be a refresh and expanding or leveraging our fiber network to provide more technology, connectivity, and provide more Internet of Things, if you will, to our city. Lotus Notes replacement, we're hoping in 2019, 2020 to finally move off our mail encountering, which we've been on Lotus Notes for over 20 years, believe it or not. So this would be a interesting milestone for the city. We will continue to replace our network switches and firewalls for security. And that was an acquisition we did in March, so we're actively deploying those hardware right now. Continue to provide security for our facilities through electronic door locks, I call it EDL, and video surveillance. Again, a refresh as we build up OutSystems with an application that you guys approved in March of this year, and so we're modernizing our application infrastructure. The other piece here is our capital expense for our server, our on-premise server cloud. Our server environment on-premise runs approximately 100 servers, and there will be approaching end of life here in 2019. With all this changing technology, we want to continue to maintain security, protect our assets. I'm sure you're all aware of the security threats that continue to attack organizations. Budget highlights, most of this is already in the Equipment Reserve Fund. Really has been a great program for information technology because of the cost of some of the assets to replace that equipment. The only highlight that I would say is in our general fund is the $15,000 for investigation or expansion or implementation of a Wi-Fi for public spaces. Budget highlights, pretty constant, not a lot changing there. Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mel.
All right, last few slides. Here's a summary of all of our funds, everything that we talked about tonight. Happy to open it up for discussion and questions at this time, and anybody or any of the department heads can get back up and answer any of your questions. at this time, or if you would like, we have additional meetings for our budget. The next budget meeting is on June 5th, and the SEDC and Visit Shawnee, along with the city's economic development fund, will be presented. And then at that time is when we can do any budget wrap-up. Any additional information that the governing body needs can be presented at that time, or we can have any additional discussions at that time. June 19th, again, if any more budget wrap-up or information is needed to be provided to the governing body, that would be an opportunity for staff to do so. And then from there, it would be establishing the budget limit, setting the notice for public hearing, and then ultimately adopting the budget in early July. So we can talk about questions, discussion, anything that the governing body would like staff to look into further. Now would be the time.
I think you have it pretty lean right now. Jim?
I'll just say that this is, I really appreciate how staff has streamlined the process and the presentation. There's a lot of stuff to go through, but I can remember some of these over the years that are going to be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that. We got the same information. I appreciate you filtering it down to the nuts and bolts, not only for us, but the people listening or the people that see it online. It makes it a lot more transparent, a lot more understandable for everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any additional questions from the council? Is there anybody from the audience that'd like to speak on this issue? Hearing none. There's no action on this. This concludes our meeting. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.